Hello and welcome back. I'm Natalie MacDonald and you're watching Sydney Direct on Dukascopy TV. Today I'm at the Financial Services Council where they're holding a symposium on elderly financial abuse, a growing and topical issue here in Australia. I caught up with the Honourable John Watkins, CEO of Alzheimer's Australia. John Watkins, welcome to Dukascopy TV. Many thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Thanks, Natalie.
No problem at all. Now, today we're discussing the issue of elderly finance abuse. Firstly, can you provide us with an outlook from your position as CEO of Alzheimer's Australia?
Financial abuse is when parties that are close to elderly people, more often than not their family members, children or other relatives, abuse financially their parent or loved one, and that may be fraudulently stealing from them, selling their home from underneath them, taking money from them unwarranted or without permission. So there's a range, and tragically the numbers are very high. There are estimates of up to 10% of older people being subject to financial abuse. It's very difficult to actually collect and keep figures because people tend to keep it quiet. But in my field, I'm responsible for those people in Australia that have developed dementia. And in Australia, there's about 340,000 people today living with dementia. If you look at those stats, 10%, 34,000 people perhaps being subject to financial abuse this year in Australia, and they're just the ones with dementia. That's particularly troubling.
I also wanted to ask, is there sort of an affluence targeting in this and those elderly members of the community who are being targeted, or can it be from sort of any wealth spectrum?
It's any wealth spectrum, really. People who are intent on financial abuse, fraudulently, criminally abusing another person, generally it's someone close to them. So people will commit financial abuse over relatively small amounts of money. Or over large amounts of money. It really, people seem to be abusing those people who are close to them. So it depends on how much they're financially able. I mean, of course, financial abuse occurs by people who don't know you. I mean, there are criminals out there in every society who are looking for vulnerable people. But the real issue that causes us grave concern is that familial financial abuse, which is really cuts to the heart of the family unit, goes against the values that we say that we respect as a civilised community.
I mean, naturally on a personal level, it's really rather damaging and disastrous to your personal finance. But given how significant sort of the superannuation sector is within Australia, more broadly speaking, does this have a damaging economic effect also?
Look, any level of fraud or criminal behaviour that impacts on the financial system is a negative. It has a negative financial impact, it has a poor reputational impact. If we've got such extensive financial fraud happening in the Australian economy, that is an issue that the national governments and every institution that's involved with the financial system needs to take seriously.
And you mentioned there the government. What is the government's current stance on this? What measures are in place to try and tackle this issue?
Look, there are measures in place. Unfortunately, they're probably not working as well as we need them to. For example, the government in most states of Australia are responsible for legal instruments such as wills, powers of attorney, enduring powers of guardianship, which provide some protection for older people who may be subject to abuse. But there are shortcomings because only about 50% of Australians have a will, less than 20% have a power of attorney. So that means we've got legal instruments that protect, but they're not being taken up. So someone, and that probably means governments in Australia, need to get on the front foot to encourage people to take up these legal instruments that do provide protection.
So what are the indicators then that Alzheimer's Australia suggests that people perhaps look out for, and what is the next step if you recognise that someone close may be experiencing that elderly financial abuse?
If someone's being financially abused and they've got dementia and they know about it, what you need to look for is a level of distress, confusion, hurt. Now, that may be there anyway because of the dementia. It's difficult to wend your way through that. But generally speaking, financial abuse, a crime, does not happen within knowledgeable, supportive, extended families. It does happen, but it's rare. It generally happens where there's not a lot of transparency, where there may be an elderly parent with one child and no other supports. And that's where it's very difficult to actually identify. And that's where perhaps other family members won't see it, but financial institutions, banks, or other agencies may be the first people that get a sense that there is something a bit wrong here. And that's why it's essentially important that people who work within the financial industry are properly trained in the issue of financial abuse.
John, many thanks for your time today. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Natalie, thank you.
Our many thanks to John Watkins, CEO of Alzheimer's Australia, for his comments today. That is all we've got time for, unfortunately, but I will be back with plenty more exclusive interviews for you right here from the heart of the APAC region. Goodbye.